Hello and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you from wherever you're joining us from. And thank you for joining the Microsoft 365 Community Conference Workshop Preview Series. It's powered by our strategic partner, Techly. This is our final presentation of our 3-week run of the workshop preview series. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we've been featuring sneak peeks and previews into the workshop scheduled for the main event in Orlando this April. If you're watching live right now from one of our streaming services, whether LinkedIn or X or YouTube or whatever, and you want to keep track of the future events for this preview series for M365 Con 26. You head over to the QR code up there. Thank you, Terry. And we will keep a schedule there of the upcoming events in February, March, and April. We plan on having a series of previews into the topics, the areas, whether it's Copilot or adoption or deployment or governance. We'll have those discussions with Microsoft presenters as well as community presenters over the next couple of months. So keep a hold of that QR code and check out that site regularly. Most of all, we hope that this information helps you understand a little bit better about making decisions about the workshops that are being presented in Orlando. And so without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our presenters, David Warner, Hugo Bernier, and Bo Cameron.
Hello and welcome everyone to this workshop preview for the Microsoft 365 Community Conference. My name is David Warner. I am a Microsoft MVP, member of the Patterns and Practices team, and excited to be here with you today. With me are two of my closest friends, first being Bo Cameron. Bo, how you doing?
Doing good, David. Yeah, I'm Bo Cameron. I am a Microsoft MVP, member of the P&P team as well. I've been doing SharePoint development for about 15 years, and I'm super excited to introduce you to SPFx.
Awesome.
And Hugo.
Thank you. I thought that was my new nickname. I'm Hugo Bernier. I'm the world's laziest developer. I'm a MVP and a member of the Patterns and Practices. Super looking forward to see you at our workshop.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Well, friends, we are here to talk about SPFx. And I know what you're thinking if you're interested in SPFx. You're thinking, help! How do I build SPFx solutions? Just like Bo needed help opening this door, you all likely may need help getting started with SPFx, and we are here to help you. That is where our workshop comes into play. So our workshop, SPFx Supercharged Hands-On Bootcamp for Building SharePoint Solutions 2026 edition. Now, we say 2026 edition because we've been doing this workshop for a few years now. In fact, when we first started this workshop a number of years ago, Bo was just a little boy. Chris didn't even exist. I had glorious locks of hair, and Hugo was, my goodness, what a clown around he was, right? And unfortunately, you noticed that Chris wasn't introduced. He wasn't here to introduce himself. But everyone, with the advancement of artificial intelligence and the ability to emulate a live person, we have recreated Chris for you. He is here to say hello, so please all welcome Chris and say hello to Chris.
Wowee.
Wowee! Yes, that's right. So Chris is joining us here in this advanced agentic experience. So thanks, Chris, for showing up. Now, listen. This has been a wonderful workshop. We've been doing it a number of years now, and we've had excellent feedback. It really has been an enjoyable ride, and we wanted to share some of that with you. So Hugo, tell us a little bit more about this workshop and the feedback we've received.
Absolutely. So this is actual feedback we've received. The hands-on lab testing was fantastic. This was definitely worth the trip. Really liked the session. The labs were great. Preferred labs versus tons of lecture. Excellent class and help. Love the personal assistance and down-to-earth look at what we need to be successful. Thank you for the workshop, having the primary focus on the labs with the lightning presentations sprinkled in was a great way to keep the audience engaged. We can skip that one. And a great workshop, very green with all this. So all info is greatly appreciated. Thank you. But unfortunately, not all feedback was positive. David, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, unfortunately, friends, we do want to be transparent because quite honestly, and out of fairness and in that transparency, we thought we'd give you some of the negative feedback that we received. So with the workshop content was pretty solid overall, but the room was approximately the temperature of a meat locker. Please advise. Please advise. We'll try to heat it up next time, everybody. Also, great technical depth in demos. However, there were not nearly enough wowies from Chris. Please adjust for future events. We will do our best to improve, everybody. We take this very seriously. Okay, so enough of that. What is SPFx? Clearly, we like to have some fun, everybody. So if that is a preview of what you're going to experience in the workshop, get ready. It's going to be fun. But we are here to talk tech as well. So what is SPFx, you may wonder? It is Microsoft's modern client-side development model for extending the Microsoft 365 experiences using web technologies. So it allows you to build your own custom UI and logic that runs inside of Microsoft 365. You're not going to break security. You're going to be able to improve governance and performance, and you're going to be able to do all of it using the Microsoft framework, the model of development.
You know, that actually makes a lot of sense now that I think about it. Woo! Hilarious. All right,
thanks, Chris. Yep, Chris always has to chime in no matter where he's at. He's always with us in spirit. So what are some of the key characteristics of the SharePoint framework? It runs in the browser, right? So you're obviously going to be interacting with various Microsoft technologies and specifically SharePoint. SharePoint framework is obvious of that. It uses a modern web stack. It's framework agnostic, so you can use different frameworks if you want. It's not just you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. It's secure by design, right? So it uses the same code in multiple surfaces. So it's not like you have to maintain multiple versions of multiple copies of code and stuff like that. And when you think about SharePoint versus classic development, Hugo, tell us a little bit more about this.
Yes, so let's throw in the icons for SharePoint classic development and the new SPFx development. And so the first point that we should compare is really on the classic development, it was all server-side code, and it had to be full trust and farm solutions, which is not good from a security perspective. On the other side, though, everything runs on, and that's on the other side being the keyword for moving to the next. All right, we can do it that way.
That's how you designed it. Yep.
Okay. All right. So we also had script injection and script editors. We had tightly coupled to SharePoint. It required elevated privileges to be able to do anything, and it was hard to deploy and maintain solutions, unfortunately. And anytime we had updates, it was easy to break your solutions. It was SharePoint only. You couldn't really extend to any Microsoft 365 applications. And it was all legacy tooling. Not that Visual Studio is legacy, but in the context of how we were working with it, it was pretty much all legacy tooling. Now, on the flip side, there you go. We had the old way is server-side, the new way is client-side. So it runs in the browser. It is actually designed to be structured and supports all sorts of extensions. It is version agnostic, and it is all cloud first, so we're not bound to kind of a version in SharePoint. It respects the Microsoft 365 security and permissions, so you don't have elevated privileges. CI/CD for continuous integration, continuous development. That's capable of supporting these frameworks, and it's designed to survive the platform changes, as well as SharePoint and Microsoft Teams support, as opposed to just old SharePoint only. And then the modern toolings, right? So all the web stack that we know and love, TypeScript, React, NPM, those are all available to us right now. Let's talk about what's available in terms of functionality within SPFx. So it's same code, but multiple surfaces, right? So when we look at all the things that we can do personal apps, we can do tabs in Teams, for example, we can do meeting apps, we can do messaging extension, We can do cards, especially for mobile applications. We could do web parts, extensions to extend the capabilities of a page, as well as a full-on app page to kind of take control over the look and feel. So that web part extension and app pages is within SharePoint itself. But if we look at other functionality, personal apps, tabs, and meeting apps and messaging extensions, those are available within Microsoft Teams as well, using the same code. And then within Microsoft Viva, we have the cards as well as the web parts and the extensions. So that's pretty fancy. And then, but wait, if you order now, you also get the ability to support Outlook and Microsoft 365 apps as well. Okay, so why should I use SPFx? Well, it's not really about liking SPFx. Really, it's about choosing the model that Microsoft is actually investing in. All right, so the supported way, this is the path that Microsoft builds, tests, and evolves against. Secure by design, there's no server-side code, no farm access, no shared tenant risk. There's one development model, many surfaces. We just talked about this, but it's the same code that runs in all SharePoint, Teams, Viva, and more. The modern development experience, right? We used to have to hire people who knew server-side stuff and who were somehow good at HTML, UI, and UX. We don't have to worry about that anymore. We can really hire people who are experts in web stack using modern tooling, CI/CD, and real front-end practices. But behind the scenes, it's cloud first and future proof. So it's designed for SharePoint Online. It's not adapted to it. And finally, it's enterprise friendly deployment. So we can use the application catalog, we can use permissions, versioning, and governance. That's all built in, right? So SPFx is the only extensibility model that balances security, scale, and developer productivity in Microsoft 365. If we look at the SharePoint development over the years. Thank you, David. So in 2001, when SharePoint first started, and that's like 25 years ago, we basically needed anything that the developers could extend. So we let them basically put customizations anywhere on the server. It didn't matter, right? In 2010, that power that we had to be able to touch the servers was great until it didn't work, right? When farms became fragile, slow, and unmanageable because your developers had full access to the code, that was not good. So in 2013, we overcorrected, right? We made it safe and cloud ready, but at the cost of developer experience. And finally, in 2017, when SPFx came in, it really became the compromise. Native user interface again, but without breaking the cloud. And every shift that you see here is Microsoft correcting a mistake from the previous area. So what? SPFx is not just a new API, it's the end result of about 15 years of lessons about power, safety, and scale. And let's take a look at, since SPFx has been released, these are all the releases. So we've done more release in the last, 7 years than we have the previous 15 years. And that's amazing. And we're missing some on this slide, in fact. But that's why using SPFx is one way to stay up to date with development. In fact, our workshop is always up to date because we usually update it like just the night before. This is, if you're wondering how many people are using SharePoint Framework, this is the monthly active users for SharePoint Framework. We are looking at tens of millions of monthly active users for custom SharePoint Framework components in Microsoft 365 that are created by various partners and customers. And if we look ahead, Microsoft always shares their roadmap. And you can see that there's lots of plans here. I guess December is already passed, but January 27th, that's also passed. March and June, there's already updates scheduled. So we have a lot of stuff coming ahead of us for SharePoint Framework. So you're not working in a stale framework. Now, if you want to have something to quote to your manager and you want to talk about what are the advantages of using SharePoint Framework, well, when people talk about cost, right, they usually mean the licensing or development. But total cost of ownership, which was something that was coined by Gartner, is really everything, including after the first success you've had. And there's a lot of hidden costs like licensing. Well, SPFx doesn't add any new platform license. It uses your Microsoft 365 license. Your development costs, well, you're using modern tooling, shared skills, and pretty much other models across multiple workloads. So you can actually just use the web stack developer. In fact, we're going to use Visual Studio Code in our workshop, which is free for everyone. Infrastructure and hosting, there's no servers to run or patch. Microsoft owns pretty much the blast radius of the server infrastructure. Operational and maintenance, there's no farm health to worry about, no IIS reset, no custom runtime to babysit. When it comes to governance, you have tenant level control, you have permission and policies that are built in because, again, it's built on top of the Microsoft 365 infrastructure. Testing and quality assurance, there are clear boundaries and repeatable deployment to reduce the unknowns, which is important. And when it comes to deploying and releasing using release management, you have app catalog, you have versioning, you have approvals. You don't have to worry about midnight deploys anymore. In terms of adoption and change management, that's always a huge cost in total cost of ownership. But a native user experience means that your users will feel that your applications are familiar because they look and feel like Microsoft 365. And in terms of integrating and ecosystem, it's first-class access to Microsoft, or SPFx gets first-class access to Microsoft Graph and the Microsoft 365 surfaces, which is usually where you spend your time with custom application. Scalability and performance, well, it scales with the platform instead of fighting with it. When it comes to vendor and platform risk, well, it's Microsoft, so we don't really have to worry about the Microsoft going away anytime soon. But it's aligned with Microsoft's roadmap. You're not working against it. When it comes to end of life, well, client-side code and standard web technologies are easier to unwind than custom code that work on a unique framework. And then opportunity costs, well, one investment unlocks SharePoint, Teams, Viva, and more. And if you're building from scratch, you would require to build kind of all of that functionality we just talked about, the security, governance, all that stuff. You'd have to build that yourself. So what? Well, the most expensive part of software is pretty much everything you don't see on day one, right? With SharePoint framework, you're able to take advantage of a low total cost of ownership. And that's what we're looking at. So why don't we get David to show some examples now, because we talked about how easy it will be and how low cost of ownership it is to adopt new solutions. David, where do I go if I want to start building new solutions and our workshop attendees have completed the workshop?
Well, yeah, I was going to say the first step is attending the workshop, right? So once you've checked that box, it's definitely good to know that you're going to leave with, one, a bunch of cool technology that we're going to provide you there at the workshop. But it's also good to have landscape awareness. And the community within Microsoft, specifically SharePoint Framework Solutions, is vast, rich, and deep. There is a ton of community contributors that do all kinds of community events, as well as utilities and sharing of samples. So I'm going to showcase just real quick a fantastic opportunity where a lot of these tools and samples are located. Now you may think, well, my goodness, this is awesome. There is literally thousands of or hundreds of samples that are available to me. I don't need the workshop. Now this is art of the possible. These are samples. You also have to understand how they go together, right? So we don't want to underscore that, hey, these are just simple plug and play. There's a lot of moving pieces, but you're able to come in and work within a supportable and engaging community. So you can see using this browser, there's a number of ways to be able to filter the different samples that are available, to be able to see them by version or be able to see them by technology. If you're using React, obviously we know that's a very popular one. You can You can filter on that. You can see the different types of SPFx components and solutions you can build. And you may say, well, David, I don't even know what an application customizer is versus a field customizer versus a web part. That's what the workshop's for. But it's important to know that there is a lot of very cool solutions and samples already out there for you to be able to go not only harness and use to learn from, but maybe use as a starting point for some of your needs. So you're not exactly having to rebuild the wheel or recreate the wheel. And you can even come in here, if we do a search on Hugo, then we're able to see some of what Hugo had worked on, right? It looks like Hugo's been a busy little bee on some of these samples, which is very cool. If we wanted to see what Bo has worked on, some awesome stuff, right? His PNP.js. There's more Bo's worked on. It's just not showing him. I know there is.
It's broken. It's broken. The whole search is broken.
Yeah, it is there. No, there's some other stuff too. Again, I'm actually filtering on React, right? So if I were to say all, then we see much more showing up here. So you're able to see just what you need and take advantage of it. Let's go back to Bo, and there you go. Bo's got more stuff he's involved with. That was just the React one. So you can go into each one of these. For example, you can click on it and you can see some screenshots that are available, right? Who doesn't want this bright orange? You can download it as a zip. You can view it on GitHub. You can see who the primary contributors were. So if you need to reach out and ask questions, the community is very, very collaborative. You can even leave comments when you're logged into GitHub. So, and provide a reaction, which is a great way to show the contributors that, hey, I appreciate this. This is awesome. So super cool way. We'll show you even more information about that once we get into the workshop. But we did want to sneak preview and say, hey, you're making an investment in this technology by attending the workshop and learning how to use it. Important to know that there is a rich community there to support you. You're not just going to leave the workshop and be on your own. Okay, Bo, so tell us what's going to happen in our hands-on workshop.
Awesome. So we'll get to the right down to the meat and the potatoes, I guess. You'll notice some interesting things about our workshops that I think differentiates us from some other workshops you might have attended in the past. So our workshop is hands-on, but it's self-paced. So throughout the day, you can move as fast or as slow as you want. If you don't finish labs, you can take them home. But if you speed through labs as well, we will have chances for you to still get value from the workshop. So every lab is hands-on, but also shared in real time. And so what do we mean? Of course, it's in real time. Well, what we do is we host a Teams call during the workshop all day long. That allows us to, one, share our slides, and you can take screenshots of our slides as we speak, but also we can do async communication with each other. So if you have a question that you don't want to interrupt the class, you can just message that within the Teams chat, and then everyone can benefit from the answers. The labs themselves are all organized with all of the steps. If you ever get stuck, there are code samples you can just pull and then start fresh on the next lab. At the end of the day, we do a Q&A session where you can ask any questions you might have. And then one thing that's interesting about us is you might notice that we have 4 presenters, and we do that for a particular purpose. Rather than have one person speak, we like to have 4, and we like to give more time to the attendees themselves. And you can do a BYOP, or bring your own problems. These are things that you might be working on at your job now, and you have questions about, and you would like expertise from us. Well, the benefit of having 4 speakers is that we can spend more time with not just workshop content specifically, but you also get some free consulting time there as well. So we can answer any problems that you might have. And the whole goal is really that you can leave with practical experience and a clear understanding of how everything within the SharePoint world fits together. So let's take a look at what our labs actually cover. So there are kind of 5 main blocks, I guess. 5, I can count. And so we'll walk you through from how to set up your machine, how to build your first web part. We'll talk about how to style web parts, how to use icons. We'll work with property panes. We'll deal with JavaScript event handlers, how to provision assets with your applications as well. We do stuff in a few bonus labs that aren't SPFX specific, but it is helpful to give you a additional information about what we do as devs in the SharePoint space. You will work with retrieving content, right? We don't just build static web parts. We want to interact with SharePoint lists, libraries, and so you will be writing code that interacts with SharePoint lists directly, and then we will show you how to deploy these out into your environments as well. Next slide for me, David. New for 2026, which we are super pumped about, is we've kind of built on our existing workshop that we have with a new take-home lab. So you will be able to download this new lab. It's 12 or workshop 12 labs. This will be in addition to the workshop itself, and it's really just meant to reinforce what you've learned after you have spent the day with us. And it's a bit more advanced, so a bit more code, a bit more styles. Plus, it's just fun. So we look forward to giving you that as well. So.
And once you build it and you create all these wordles and you solve them, everybody has to send them to Hugo. He loves that, to get those every day. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so we're gonna wrap up with one more interesting thing about how we do workshops. If you've attended them in the past, most teachers will say, "Hey, pencils down, heads up. Time to talk about lab 2, time to talk about lab 3." And we personally feel that that's a really rough and abrupt way to go through labs. And so what we do are lightning talks, which are kind of 10 to 15-minute talks that we do throughout the day to reinforce some of the things that you are going to learn within the labs, or to provide additional context within the SharePoint framework and development ecosystem. David, so why don't you just highlight for us what you're going to discuss in your lightning talk?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Bo. So in my lightning talk, we're going to talk about two different things. We're going to talk about NVS, and you may say, what is NVS? Well, come to the workshop, you'll find out. Essentially, it is about node version control, right? So SharePoint Framework Solutions, as we saw, are based on different versions of SPFx, but within that, there's also different versions of node and other things. Now, different solutions throughout history have been built on different versions of these things, like node. And so you can get a collection of different solutions based on different versions, and then you're trying to juggle it and figure out how it's going to work. There is tooling in place that lets you hot swap the different versions of these pieces of tooling so that it's easy for you on a single box to be able to juggle and manage the different versions and the types of solutions that you may be interfacing with. You might have to adjust a solution that was built on 2 versions ago a year later. You don't want to have to reinstall all that software. So we'll talk about the benefit there. And then browser profiles allow you to ensure that you're logging in to only specific Microsoft accounts. There's a lot of what's called leeching. So we'll talk about the benefits of utilizing browser profiles. If you're familiar with them, then you know how powerful they are. If you're unfamiliar, then you're going to love them. And they're super, super easy to use. Now that's what I'm going to talk about. Bo, come on back and let me know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got 2 talks throughout the workshop. One is on SCSS. So when building SPFX apps, it's not just about making web parts that work, but really about making web parts that look polished, consistent. And so SCSS is really just a fancy CSS. And so we will discuss why you might use this, some techniques as well, and why we think it's important to understand. And then I will do a session on PNP.js, which is a JavaScript library for interacting with SharePoint APIs. SPFX comes baked with its own way to call SharePoint lists, but we think that there are better ways. And so we will do a lightning talk on this and provide you with all the benefits of why you might use it, and it's actually a part of one of the labs as well.
Awesome, awesome. Hugo, what are you going to tell us about?
Well, I think it's important to point out that you're going to have instructors that have been working with SharePoint for some of us for 25 years. We've been working with SPFx since even before the first version was released. So we have a lot of experience, and it wouldn't make sense for you to just come into the workshop and just stare at the labs and not get to benefit from that experience. So one of the talks that I'm doing is really about tips and tricks and gotchas that you'll never really read anywhere else. But it's all based on our combined experience. It's also important to point out that while we're listing some lightning talks here, throughout the day, if we see that people are experiencing issues or some topic comes up, or someone, because we said bring your own problem, someone has something that everyone would benefit from, one of us is always happy to jump on stage and do a custom lightning talk just for the workshop attendees. But Chris also has lightning talk. He's not here to talk about it, but Bo,
I'll take it for him. Yeah, I'll take it for him. So the workshop itself is kind of centered around building web parts, or like little containerized apps. But SPFx, as you've seen earlier on, is a lot more than that. And so we'll have some lightning talks on how to build other SPFx customizations. So headers and SharePoint pages, footers, customizing lists, or customizing SharePoint forms. So we want to make sure that at the end of the day, even though you've just built you'll come out building a web part, you will have a holistic understanding of everything else you can do within SharePoint framework.
But Chris is not here, so I guess we could probably just remove his lightning talk and he would never know.
We could skip it. Yeah, we could skip it. I think that's it.
Well, hold on, everybody. Sorry, Hugo. That's just how it's going to be.
So I guess Hugo's always here. Oh, I mean, Chris is always here, always listening.
Yeah.
Wojciechowski. All right, so what should we bring? Hugo, what do you think?
Awesome. Well, what we should bring to the workshop, it's a hands-on workshop, right? So please don't show up with like an iPad. Bring a Windows or Mac workstation, something that has a keyboard, preferably with administrative access, so that you can install the tools that you need on your laptop. Now, we've written the labs to accommodate people who don't have administrative access, but there's some things like, for example, accessing the network and things like that. If your company is blocking these things, you will not enjoy the workshop, but hopefully you'll stay for the humor. We will send you some prerequisites. It's kind of like homework before the workshop. We'll send that to you before the workshop, so you have plenty of time to do it. If you don't get around to doing it before the workshop, it's in one of the labs, so you'll get to do it during the workshop. But again, try to optimize your time. Come in ready with all the tools and everything. We'll help you if you run into issues installing anything. You should probably have a Microsoft 365 site collection that you can use to develop and test, because you'll need to create lists, you'll need to host web parts and things like that. If you don't have access to that, we can provide you with one of our accounts on our tenants. You will need a site collection app catalog so you can deploy your web part and try it. And you probably should consider bringing a fully charged battery and or power banks, and that's on your laptop and every device, as well as probably some power cords for your laptop. In the previous years, we've seen people just having to hover around the edges of the room so that they could connect to the outlets. So make sure that you come in equipped with lots of power, so you can use your computer the whole day. And that's pretty much it for me.
Yep, awesome. Here you go. So we hope everybody has found value in watching this preview. Please go get signed up. You can use one of 4 coupon codes to get a discount. You can use Warner 150. You can use Warner 150. Oh, wait, sorry. There's some other ones. I'm just kidding. Bernier 150, Cameron 150, Kent 150, or if you feel sorry for me, Warner 150. Any of them are great. They're going to give you a discount. We can't wait to see you all in Orlando. It's going to be fantastic. Gentlemen, thanks for this fun time.
Thank you. We're looking forward
Bye-bye.
to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Nope.
Lyman, you're muted.
That helps to unmute my microphone. Anyway, thank you guys. Awesome. Insane and everything. You don't even know you're learning because it just sort of seeps in through all the humor. Much appreciated. And, well, some call it humor. But we appreciate your time. And hopefully we'll see you all in Orlando this April. And I know I'll see you guys, but hopefully I'll see you on our living stream. So keep track of our upcoming preview series where we'll talk about the different pillars, the different topics that we'll be presenting at M365 in Orlando. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for joining us today.